Hey, Husker fans, you are listening to the Pick Six Podcast. I'm Evan Bland, hanging out with Sam McKewon today. Jimmy is not here. Tom is not here, but you have the two of us who will be heading to Indianapolis here in a few days for the Big Ten Media Days. And, you know, it feels like a long off-season is finally just about over. We're kind of diving into football talk and then camp, and then Ireland's going to be here before we know it. How are you doing, Sam? Does it feel like there was an off-season this year? Is this kind of the start of
Not exactly.
What's to come?
We've been building the Husker Extra team, and that's been taking some time. So it wasn't a big, long off-season for me personally. As everybody knows at the World-Herald, we also cover the hell out of the College World Series, so you guys did a great job with that. But I think it has been a restful off-season for Nebraska football. Nothing happened. Very little happened. It's been pretty quiet. And there was no public tour. There was no calamity. No AD was fired. No AD was hired. No NCAA investigation was launched or announced. There's no residual angst over the Oklahoma thing. Mm-hmm. There's just I would say it's been a very quiet and restful summer. On that front, I don't know what it's been like for the coaches and players, but I suspect it's been pretty good for them too.
I think before we sort of get into the Nebraska stuff, maybe let's kind of describe for people what Big Ten Media Days is like, because I think you can kind of get into the rhythm where maybe you hear some quotes from coaches, you see a few clips, but it's sort of a unique event, right? Where
Yes.
I mean, especially the setup now with Nebraska and the Big Ten at Lucas Oil Stadium, it's actually on the football field,
Right.
which is cool. And I don't know. What kind of stands out to you about the setup? Obviously, it's a lot different from what it was in Chicago when you were in the basement of ballrooms and kind of lurking in the hallways.
That was like a plumbers convention. That one.
Yeah.
And then there was the one where we were in the Fugitive Ballroom. I don't know if you remember going to that one.
Yep.
And then there was the one where we were in McCormick Place, which I think is the biggest convention center in the Milky Way galaxy. So there's been a little bit different venues in all of them. Lucas Oil Stadium is, in my opinion, the best.
Agreed.
So they have the event on the football field. They set up chairs and tables, and there's a podium where coaches and the commissioner will go up and talk. And then there are smaller podiums behind all those chairs, like on the 20, between the 50 and the 20. And it's a fire hose. It's like a big fire hose. And you have to try to roam around and put, tape recorder here, and kind of roam around and try to ask a few questions, and you kind of nose your way in, especially if it's Nebraska, because there's a lot of attention at the coach's part, with Frost. And so it's in this year, it's going to be a little different because Nebraska's going to go right away.
It's going to be even more of a fire hose.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like we're not going to go in there and kind of set up our computers and stretch out and have a hobnob with this person over here. No, it's going to be full bore right away, full throttle, and so it'll be a little bit different because I was joking with somebody like the Nebraska beat media will all show up to pick up their credentials at like 6:30 a.m. and we'll all be in a line and we'll all have a kind of like a peeing contest over who got there first. That person's first in line. Well, we're seventh, and how long have you been waiting here? Oh, that's long, and then we'll all run to the chairs. I don't know, I'm not trying to be cynical. It's just kind of the way it is when you have to do it at 8:15 in the morning, which is less than ideal. Nebraska's doing that because their camp starts on Wednesday. So anyway, that's part of what happens. For people who are sartorially minded, some people rate the suits that the coaches have on. There's usually a big story that has nothing to do with the event going on simultaneous to the event. Does that make sense?
What do you mean?
Conference realignment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, bigger picture stuff.
1 year,
yeah.
and this had something to do with the event because it happened at the event. Urban Meyer being questioned about Zach Smith at the event. 1 year, there's usually some drama somewhere for some reason, and like that becomes the story of the event. It's not the teams there. It's not the players there. It's not who's going to win anything. It becomes what did the national media report over here, and then what then becomes the dominant story. And then you have mixed in the obvious beat writers were like, Coach, tell me about your third string left tackle. And, just what do you think about the depth there?
Mm-hmm.
So you have those kind of questions, and then you have the, the national questions about NIL, Last year there was a lot of NIL conversation. This year you're going to hear a lot of complaining about NIL. It's out of control and all this other stuff. So that's what it's like. And then in Indianapolis, it used to be in Chicago, now it's in Indianapolis. You walk outside, you go to your hotel. Some people go to a slightly overrated steakhouse. Let's be honest, it's a little overrated.
Yeah.
Everybody does what they do. Same place where they have the NFL Combine. So Lucas Oil Stadium's really used to doing this. They're very good at it, and Indianapolis does a good job with that event.
Yeah, it's well set up, and not only are all the podiums set up, but you can talk to Trev Alberts or other kind of Big Ten or school personnel off to the side. There's a little kind of cafeteria in one of the concourse areas down at the bottom where you get like a boxed lunch or something like that. So, it's a good setup. And I'm going to make the prediction that Scott Frost will make the same joke that he's made the last at least 2 years, which was he'll sit down, he'll look out, he'll see that most of the media there is from Nebraska, and he'll say, we could have just done this in Lincoln.
Oh.
But again, we haven't actually heard from him, I don't think, since the spring game publicly.
He was on the radio, I think, a few days after the spring game.
But really, so we're talking a matter of months here.
Yeah, there's this. I mean, we've asked to talk to Frost. I know Shatel has asked. I've asked, to see if Frost can talk to us. It's just not going to surprise me if there's an interview that comes out before it, because I don't know, to set the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a hunch, and we've asked again, and we've been told that not right now. So, but that was that was a while back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at this point. To be clear, short of Scott divulging some here's who the starting quarterback is going to be, which he never does. I don't know that there's a lot that he's going to say that is burns the headlines.
And this
There's
is
some
what
insight he can
ask.
provide, but at this point, we've kind of run out of the rhetoric, and it's just about winning and losing football games.
Mm-hmm.
If we seriously go there, and I can just tell you right now, it is not going to be my goal to go there and hear about how this was the best offseason ever. That's not. Come on. Every offseason is good. They enjoy hanging out together. We don't need to hear that. That won't be the predominant storyline. Is that or the offensive line? This is the year the offensive line's going to make it. Everything at this point is, at the very least, trust but verify, and honestly, in a lot of cases, there's really no reason to believe that things are going to get better until they prove it. They have to earn the fans' trust, and I think they probably have some fans' trust, but I think other fans are yeah, we don't believe it, and there's really no recent evidence that says, well, it's going to get better, because it will, right?
I think we'll hear a lot of what we heard last year, which was the whole they need some wind in their sails. You heard that quite a bit. You have to start strong. Of course, they didn't, and it went the other way. But it's the same sort of thing this year. Going to Ireland, the importance of the first game. I think those are interesting pieces. The players that they're bringing, in my opinion, are pretty wide-ranging in what they'll offer. I mean, Garrett Nelson will probably be one of the most popular players there just because of his bravado and his yeah, he is fun. Travis Vokalek traditionally has not been a super great quote, but on the field he's certainly going to play a big role.
He'll be one of the most impressive-looking players there.
Certainly.
People will be like, who is that guy?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll get a couple of Rutgers reporters who come over.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
Vokalek looks like an NFL player now.
He does.
He's impressive looking. And so he'll get some. And then Quentin Newsome, who, is probably an NFL draft pick in a couple of years. Maybe after this season. You just never know. He can give good quotes. Sometimes they get in that setting and they actually get a lot better than when they just got out of practice and they're standing around 14 people with a microphone or a tape recorder in their face. When they get to these events and they're wearing a nice suit and they've had time to think about what they want to say, and then they get there, it actually is better in some ways than you get back in the
Yeah, no doubt. And you've been to Super Bowl Media Day. I have not. But
Oh,
I
yeah,
imagine
that's-
that there were elements of that where you have there are always a
That's
handful of
that's
people who
assumed.
walk around and ask kind of strange questions. And
Oh yeah,
I know
Super Bowl
it's
Media Day is.
it's
yeah.
that on steroids at
Oh, no
Super Bowl.
question.
But
Yeah, that was a bizarre experience. There's no other way to put that. There's like literally 100 people standing like outside a fence, yelling questions at Tom Brady, and Tom can't hear half of them. I went up there for the Patriots-Eagles game, and then like the cool thing is, so there's like the best players are in these like whatever, but then like an individual player like Rex Burkhead is just standing in the middle of the arena. Hey, you just go up and talk to Rex for 20 minutes. Or Nathan Gary. You just go talk to Nate. And there you go. How you doing? And you just talk to him for 20 minutes. And then there's the star players, and like you can't literally access them. They just they just peer out at you, and they answer whatever question comes their way. And Brady would be like, my dad? I love my dad. Football? Love it. Like he was saying nothing. It was really interesting.
Huh.
I digress.
no, it's all good. So expand that, I guess. So like beyond Nebraska, who do you enjoy hearing from, and who doesn't really, who do you walk away from and say, I didn't really learn a lot from that particular dialogue?
The longest opening speech will probably go to Mel Tucker, because Mel Tucker gives long opening statements.
He does.
Even in his press conferences.
Filibuster.
Yeah, he will talk a long time. Scott will probably have the shortest. He may not even have one at all. I don't know.
I bet he will this year.
PJ Fleck is always wearing some sort of patterned suit with, a tie like as wide as the Mississippi River, solid color, pocket square. And he just looks like the guy that walked out of a casino, and they call him the Buster.
Right.
And to be clear, everybody knows I dress like a hobo. So, like, this is not... I'm not critiquing how he looks, right? But, like, he always come... Like, one year it was, like, plaid. It's just a lot. And, like, he always just comes off a certain way. And then Jim Harbaugh will wear a hat, and he will be inscrutable. At least twice... to two different questions, he will be inscrutable, perhaps even to himself. He won't even understand what he's saying. Because he'll get asked a question and he'll be like, yeah, really good. I guess it's really good. I don't know. Yeah, looking forward to it. Like, and that's it. That's all it is. It's like, I don't know. It's like Eli Cash in the Royal Tenenbaums. Like, he gets lost in his thoughts and he just walks off the set.
Yeah.
That's Jim Harbaugh. Ryan Day's really polished. Kirk Ferentz, I think, in recent years has walked around that event with a smirk, because he keeps winning and nobody knows how he does it. And like, he always gets a dig in at Nebraska or Minnesota, and he's like, I've been around this thing a little bit. Oh, we just keep winning 9 games. We scored 6 points a game last year. We won 9, so pretty good what we're doing. I guess nobody really likes us, though. Like, he does this all the time.
Yeah.
So he walks around with a smirk. Who else? Who?
James,
Tucker, we don't know enough about yet, but he's just kind of like he talks a lot.
James Franklin, remember the year he said Akron like 30 times because that was their first team?
Franklin is sensitive, so he's pretty close to Scott Frost. And one year, Harbaugh was talking at the big podium, and this is back when they crammed everything into this tiny little space. Mm-hmm. And Harbaugh was like 20 yards away, and Franklin was trying to do his presser, and he got really mad. And he looked at it. He goes, sorry, I can't really hear you. Somebody over there is talking a little loud. And I was like, oh, this is good. I like Franklin. He's pretty insightful. He's a pretty sharp guy, but there's an edge there. And I think that edge is only going to get greater because he has a huge contract now, and he needs to like win games. Brom's pretty boring.
Brom and Paul Christ.
Yeah.
Those guys, my goodness gracious. You go over there and, they could be talking about buttering toast. They could be talking about whatever. And it's just, you're sitting there like, even if they're talking about something interesting, the tone with which they convey it, you're just like, you really got to lock in.
Yes. Who are we forgetting? Bielema.
Bielema, yep.
is a character. I don't think he's as big of a character as he was when Nebraska joined the league, but he's kind of a character.
Shiano,
I'm impressed by him. I am. I think they've got 2 or 3 years to build it, but he strikes me as a sharp guy. Fitzgerald is good, very, very put together. Who are we missing? Loxley,
yep.
he's kind of a regular guy.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's pretty laid back, and like, there's been a couple times when I've been. So his predecessor was that guy that got run out because he was a jerk.
Durkin, right?
That guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that guy was a jerk. Like, I went to him up a couple times, and he just looked at me like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Well, who are you? You're Coach Maryland. I mean, what do you want?" You know, Loxley's pretty regular, and then Tom Allen is high school coach.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
He is.
I think he wants to have a bigger personality, but he just kind of.
Well, he does though. He has
what
a high school. He has that big like, "Hello, everybody!" It's just super energy, and I think that's everybody. I think we hit everyone.
Yeah, I think so.
Harbaugh's the strangest of the bunch. I think most people who know him well and like cover that team don't really know him. And then Fleck is better in person and up close than he is on the podium. He's not that bad. Like, when it's just like 4 guys standing around, he's pretty sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they've beaten Nebraska 4 of the last 5 years and three in a row. So what are we?
Oh, he had the culture over talent little dig last year. That was one
did.
of the big things last season. That got people riled up.
He did, and I think it was meant in a specific direction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff.
And he'll probably mention beating Nebraska. He'll be like, really liked how we beat Nebraska last year. It'll be something like that. Well, they beat Wisconsin, which is a way bigger deal.
That's true. Yeah, it'll be fun. We're driving 10 hours one way and then back the other way.
I hope so.
We
might get confused and find ourselves somewhere in Nashville. Let's go to Nashville for a couple of days.
Maybe 3 years ago was the no AC trip where we came back from Chicago and the air conditioning on our vehicle didn't work, and so we put down the windows and it was like a windy oven, and nobody said anything because it was so loud. And we stopped in, where did we stop?
DeKalb.
Yeah,
Northern Illinois.
Yeah, we stopped at Northern Illinois.
We went to a sports bar there.
And cooled off for like an hour and then took it the rest of the way. That was miserable.
It was. I hope that doesn't happen again. That would be a long, Iowa's a long state to drive through when you got to drive through the whole thing.
That's true. It is.
At this point, because you used to cover high school sports in Iowa, have you memorized every exit?
I mean, off the Interstate 80, yeah, sure.
Like the names of the towns?
Sure. You go down into Eastern Iowa. Yeah, exactly. What Cheer is the best one. What Cheer is great.
I know Newton is where the Speedway is.
Tipton, Durant, Davenport, of
I don't know if
course.
this is interesting listening, but it's interesting to me. Like, you just get used to. There's people who drive for a living who listen to this. You just get really used to it.
Yeah, this is where you get off to get this food, or this is where you want to get gas, or whatever.
And I kind of used to know it going west, I-80. Like, when you get out of town and, you hit Hampton and you hit Aurora and Grand Island and Hastings, the one exit between Grand Island and Kearney where you go up over the overpass, the little lakes over here. Like, you just get used to it.
Right.
I'm getting that way with Iowa, and it's scaring me a little.
Well, that's good. No, that's
scaring
good.
me a little
It's
bit.
an interesting state.
Especially between Des Moines and Omaha. That's a tough drive. That's a tough stretch right there.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Pretty boring.
And it's actually,
Eastern Iowa's
there's a lot more there than there was even 10 years ago.
Oh.
Believe that or not.
So we got to do that. And then we got to drive across the entire state, I think, of Illinois.
Of Illinois, sure.
Maybe we need to drive across Missouri instead.
Oh, boy. Don't get me started on Missouri.
No?
I mean, yeah, I suppose if everyone says if you're going to Illinois, the best way to go is through Missouri, through highway, whatever it is. We've always done an I-80. Maybe that's the way to go. I don't know. I just don't have a lot of great experiences in Missouri. That's a whole different deal. It's a state that tries to say, come off as antiquated and folksy, and it's just sort of dilapidated in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. Sam's looking up his GPA, your map, Google Map in this.
Yeah. It's 9 hours and 39 minutes, and it says that the fastest way is through Missouri.
Sometimes there's road construction too, so
There's
we'll have
not
to
much.
look
And
into
it
that.
says what it says right here is It's like an hour faster than going I-80.
Hmm.
So we're not going through Iowa.
Maybe we'll just
friend.
leave Iowa behind.
We are going through northern Missouri, which isn't really Tom Shatel's old stomping grounds, but we're going through northern Missouri, my friend.
Okay.
Apparently,
That'll be different.
if you go through there, once you hit the Missouri-Illinois border, it turns into Interstate 72.
That's it. 72.
And then you go through Springfield. Guess where? We're gonna drive by Champaign, Illinois.
There it is. Yep.
Oh.
Going to Illinois. That's right. Can't wait for that.
That might be the most boring city of all the Big Ten cities. It's up there.
I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I always think of the trip to West Lafayette, which is the worst.
It is, but that's
the destination is better than
there's a little
Champaign.
topography in Lafayette.
Yeah, I suppose.
There's no Champaign. That is flat.
I mean, people probably say the same thing
State
about
College
Lincoln.
is beautiful. I just don't like driving there.
People say that about Nebraska, probably.
Well, but there's a city.
Yeah.
You drive in. Oh, look at that Capitol building. That's kind of neat. Never seen anything quite like that before. You go to Champaign and you're like,
I agree.
well, look at that. There's a Steak and Shake.
Yeah, Red Grange was here one time. Yeah, right. All right, so let's lay out your exercise here, Sam. We're going to build our competing ultimate Big Ten power programs.
Yeah, okay. So here's the idea. I don't know that it's a great year for the Big Ten, and we can talk about other Big Ten teams another time, but I think it's an interesting exercise to try to imagine what it would be like to pick the best aspect of each Big Ten program at this moment, and see how many of those are Ohio State and how many of those are other programs. So if you were going to build a Big Ten program, an elite, the best, the Big Ten champion, but you were to build it from, one coach in the league, one quarterback in the league, one defense in the league, one recruiting footprint, like you get one state that you can recruit, or recruiting area if the states are small, one AD, and one home stadium. What would those be? So I figured we would start with perhaps the one that is at the bottom and work our way up to coach.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay?
Which one's at the bottom?
Stadium.
Okay.
So you get one home stadium. And that's where you play your home games. You play 7 games there a year. You hope you have a home field advantage. Again, irrespective of the teams that play there. So you got to imagine what it would be like if Rutgers played at that stadium. Or Ohio State played at that stadium. We know where Ohio State plays. We know where Rutgers plays. What would it mean if Ohio State's home stadium was X? So, knowing that, which stadium would you pick? Which one seems like the toughest one to play in if things are going well?
Honestly, this is the one where I said Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. One, we've seen what happens when a great team plays there and what kind of an advantage that can be, so we know. It's not too big. Having been to the Big House, the Horseshoe, having been to Penn State, those are all historic, iconic venues, but I think they're too big in today's game. I do. I think they're too big, and you lose something there. Memorial Stadium's not the nicest. I think Minnesota probably has the nicest venue.
Yeah, it was built the most recently, yeah.
It's not probably the wildest. I'd say maybe Penn State, when everything's really on the line, that's probably the one that I envision is just the craziest.
Yeah.
But when you consider especially with the renovations coming with Nebraska, the support that they have, I think it's the right size for college football today. I think that's the place where I would say, let's start there and build this thing out. How about you?
Well, so you have to consider a little bit of the culture of the place, and place that you think would be a hard place to play given the students that would be there and the environment. So I didn't pick Memorial Stadium. The two that came to mind, and of course I can only pick one, is one of them was Beaver Stadium at Penn State.
Yep.
It's up on a hill. The wind in there is kind of tough. It's a big stadium. It's probably physically the biggest stadium. It's not an easy place to play. The wind's tough. It's a natural surface. That's hard in November, You got to be used to it. And the other one was Wisconsin, because it's a dump, but it's a loud dump. And they have a tradition there that is hard to not it's hard.
Mhm.
Let's say you get to keep the tradition. Man, that's a tough place to play. I mean, it just always has been. I've always felt like it was hard to play there. The crowd's pretty good, and they're on top of you. At the end of the day, I picked Beaver Stadium.
Okay.
Because I think it's the best home field advantage, like you said, when they got it going. It's not an easy place to play.
Or get to.
The wind in there is screwy, and it's just a hard environment. Nebraska has won a couple times there. So,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you can't win there, but those were, A, on one of the days was miserable, and B, I just think it's a tough place to play. So Beaver Stadium was mine.
Okay.
Next one is recruiting footprint. You get one state overall, or you get a couple if they're smaller states. What do you want? It's got to be in the Big Ten footprint.
In the Big Ten footprint?
In the Big Ten footprint.
I'm going Ohio. And I think it's the depth and the diversity in that footprint that's interesting to me. So, like, you think of a lot of states like Wisconsin. You think, oh, you're going to get some linemen out of there. But you look at Ohio, they had a 5-star quarterback in the last cycle. They've got, linemen, high-quality defensive players all over the board. So I think you have diversity that you draw from there, and you have depth. I just took a look at their the 2022 cycle. There were 85 guys or so that signed with some college somewhere, and your top 20 to 25 were all going to Power 5 sort of programs. And so I think if your campus is in that backyard and you're drawing from that sort of depth and you have any sort of momentum going, like, that's the core of your class every single year. So certainly if you're Ohio State, you're branching out into more of a national sort of profile. You're going down to the South and whatnot. But, like, if you can build the core of your class from local guys that are actually 4- and 5-star kids,
right,
it's a heck of an advantage to start with. And I think it's one, when you look across a lot of the Big Ten, that you really can't match or come close really to matching elsewhere.
I'm going to pick what they call the DMV, which is multiple states. I get it, but the area that we're talking about is smaller than the state of Ohio, and that is the D.C., Baltimore, coastal Virginia, what they call Hampton Waters area. A, you get a lot of good players out of there. B, a lot of those guys are not. Some of them are military kids because there's a high military presence. Some of them are the kids of government employees. They're not necessarily like, I need to go to Maryland, I need to go to Virginia, I need to go to whatever school. There's probably not quite as many prospects there, but I think you've found that some really, really good players have come from that area. Nebraska hasn't gotten a ton, but they've gotten a few, right? So DeMornay Pearsonell was from there, and Jason Ankro was from there, and Marcus Newby was from there. It's not an area that Nebraska's recruiting right now, but I think if you're a powerful school, it's a great place to go, and it's also a place where I think, the kids that end up playing football there kind of want to be football players, and there's an NFL team there. I think that helps. Ohio would probably be my number 2, but let me say this. In the last 5 years, the state of Iowa has gotten pretty good.
It has.
And
per capita, for sure.
No question. So I think the state of Iowa has benefited from that, so has Iowa State. But I would go with the DMV, and then I would go with Ohio. New Jersey is not as good as it used to be. I think that's part of and that's an issue, is that there's fewer players up there, and Alabama goes up there and gets Minka Fitzpatrick, and they can go up there and get who they want. So New Jersey isn't my fave. Next one is AD.
Probably go Gene Smith from Ohio State, and it's because he, I think, has been the most proactive AD. I mean, even recently when he talked about during the pandemic year, they were legitimately looking at other avenues and ways to play, and even going so far as to consider independence for a short time. Like, that's a guy who has a vision and is going to execute it, and who reads the terrain well. I think we've seen that time and again with some of the moves that Ohio State has made. I just don't know. I can't think of a lot of other examples in the Big Ten where ADs stepped out in proactive ways that turned out to be good for their schools.
Right.
And so I think, again, if you're trying to be at the forefront, if you're trying to be a national power, certainly a Big Ten power, Smith seems like a guy who's got the vision, knows what he wants, and he's going to steer the ship well.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Yep, that's be the one I picked. The second one I would pick, to be very honest with you, is Trev Alberts. That's what I think. So, but no, Smith I think has earned that. Like he's elite, and the guy at Rutgers is pretty impressive. Now, Rutgers was a poor athletic department, financially and just performance wise 5 years ago. They're pretty good now. And I think that AD, who's kind of a businessman, he's not a lifelong athletics guy. He came a little bit from the business world. He's done some good things over there. They got a lot of debt at Rutgers, but that's not his fault.
Right.
Defense,
I'm going Iowa. And, Wisconsin had the best defense last year, I think, at least in the Big Ten in terms of points allowed. But you look at Iowa, I mean, they've got a consistent track record going back many years of top 15, top 20 in turnover margin, in yards allowed, in points allowed. So, like, it's not a fluke when they do it, and all the metrics back up what they do. And they turn out NFL talent. They develop players to become NFL talent every single year. We talk, Jack Campbell, FBS tackle leader, Riley Moss on the back end, a number of other players that have sort of come out of relative anonymity to be all Big Ten players. You add some maybe 4 or 5 star talent to that development program. I don't see anyone better than that defense.
That's a heck of an answer. I'm going to disagree with it and go with Wisconsin.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because, first, if you go back 5, 6, 7 years, I think Wisconsin's gotten the better of Iowa in a lot of those games. 1. 2, I like Wisconsin's aggressiveness. I think they're a little bit more unpredictable. They get after the quarterback a little bit more. It is accurate that Iowa is better at taking the football away. I think teams get antsy against Iowa. Iowa has a good structure, a good system. They do a good job of taking the ball away. But Wisconsin wreaks a little bit more havoc. And I think in really, really big games, Ohio State probably has the best players. Really, really big games, Iowa's defense is so-so. Like, not always. Yeah, we can go back to the 2017 Ohio State game. They were good. That was a great day for Iowa football. But you look at the Big Ten championship game. That was not.
They can be athletically exposed, maybe at times.
Yeah. Iowa doesn't test itself, and I'm not trying to knock them here. They play Iowa State every year, but if you put Iowa against Alabama, I don't know, it would go poorly. And not because Iowa's a bad team. It's because they don't have the structure, I think, to figure a team like that out. You remember when Iowa went to the Rose Bowl that one year? Mm-hmm. They lost to Michigan State, but then they went to the Rose Bowl. Kirk Ferentz is first, and I think it was the second play of the game. And Christian McCaffrey's a great player, but
still running.
He goes on a little bit of an option route, and he cuts it back inside, and that was a touchdown. Mm-hmm. That was a rough day.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a great team. And it's just, I think when they get on that level, it's hard for them because they're really well suited for the Big Ten. And then when you go into the sun and the heat at the Rose Bowl, and then all of a sudden everybody's healthy after a month, so if you're talking big game defense, I think Wisconsin's coordinator and the way they play can beat teams that are more talented than them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Quarterback.
C.J. Stroud. Yeah. Ohio State.
And it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And if you're talking about building it today, he's got 2 more years of college before he can even be draft eligible. So
let's say C.J. Stroud, we both agree on that. Who would be your number 2? To me, this is pretty easy, but I'm curious.
Number 2 quarterback?
Yeah.
It's a good one. I mean, Aiden O'Connell from Purdue, probably, just given what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He throws the ball really well. He's a nice thrower of the ball. And they both have great receiving cores, but O'Connell's a good thrower of the football. I like him. And then, you've got these guys that have been there forever. And Sean Clifford, who's been there forever. Mm-hmm. And you've got Cade McNamara, who I think is in his 4th or 5th year on campus. He's been there a really long time. So you've got some guys that have been around, they're kind of cagey veterans.
Minnesota, too, yep.
Oh, yeah, Tanner Morgan.
Yep.
So, I mean, those guys know how to run a team. I wouldn't call them, elite talents. I'd probably take Clifford over Morgan. Morgan can't run anymore. Like, maybe at one time a decade ago he was more mobile, but he really struggles to move around, whereas Clifford can still kind of get out and do some things. Noah Vegel's been around a long time, so there's a lot of 6-year guys in the league, and this will be like we're going to have huge quarterback turnover after this year.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to get, new guys. Nebraska might get a new guy. Let's be honest. Casey Thompson has a good year. I think Casey will give a shot at the NFL. Coach. This is the toughest one of the bunch because one of those guys was born on third base.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
He was. And so, like, the natural answer to that question, some people would say, well, it's this guy. Well, he was born on third base. He took over the best program in the country.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't made it better.
So my answer for this is PJ Fleck.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
I'm not. I kind of disagree, but, like,
I'm saying it's PJ Fleck today. If I'm starting a program today, there's so much that goes into it. It's not just coaching, which he is pretty accomplished at. He has made teams better. He's winning at Minnesota. I mean, he's a legitimate contender at Minnesota. But you have to today. You got to be on like all the time.
Right.
And who in that lineup of coaches do you feel like is going to be on all the time? I think it's going to be PJ Fleck. ABC, always be closing.
Right.
This is a guy who's always
You're
closing.
going to make a good argument for this, I think.
In the era of the transfer portal, with NIL and the things that are going to come up there, I think all of that, he has the personality that's best suited to navigate that moving forward. And again, what he's done on the field at Western Michigan and now here at Minnesota, you can't poo-poo it, I don't think. Yeah, they had the great season in 2019. A lot of the other coaches, I just feel like you can poke holes in their argument. You're alluding to Ryan Day, who, you put him at a Nebraska or somebody else. How different are the results going to be? I don't know. I don't think he hasn't had a lot of time as a head coach, as a program builder. Jim Harbaugh's been up and down.
He's strange.
James Franklin's been up and down. Like, I don't know. I just feel like in the way that modern college football, the way that it is moving forward into the future, he's got the temperament, the energy, and probably the vision to bring it all together in a way that some of the other guys who admittedly have more success on the field aren't equipped to do.
That's an interesting answer. That'll be a very interesting answer for our listeners. The one thing I would say about Fleck is he's well matched to the school he's at.
They run the ball, the Big Ten, yeah.
Well, he's well matched because the market he's in,
yes.
the Minnesota Gophers football team is about 6th. And that's about right for him. Now, there's a presumption that if you take that guy to a bigger market or to a bigger program, let's say Florida State, where that's the show in town.
Mm-hmm.
Fleck benefits from being behind the Vikings, the Twins, the T-Wolves, the Wild.
Why does he benefit
the
from
hockey
that?
team? Because I don't know that you want that guy being the main story every day. I'm not sure he would be well suited in that area. I think he does a pretty good job of kind of doing his own thing over here, and if they don't do well, if they don't win and they have a hard season, well, there's the Vikings. Or, there's Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, but
you don't have to worry about having this. And I think Frost has struggled a little bit with it. I think Frost benefited from being where he was at. Part of the challenge today is you've got to manage the market that you're in. And if you're going to have this elite program, you've got to manage it. And I think Fleck would be challenged by managing in Alabama. I
think he'd be up to the task.
Ohio State. Ryan Day does a beautiful job of managing Ohio State football.
Mm-hmm.
We will say that. Maybe as good as any Big Ten coach does at anything, I think Ryan Day does an elite job there. And they are the biggest show in that town.
Mm-hmm.
And the Browns suck. And I can say that because they're my wife's favorite team. So nobody cares about them. I mean, they care about them, but they're terrible. The Bengals are way over here. Are there some Bengal fans in Northeast Ohio? Sure, but They're over there, and they usually suck. So, like, Ohio State is kind of like USC. They're like the show.
Yes.
And I think Ryan Day's done a great job there. The reason you make a compelling argument. Allow me to retort.
Please.
I would pick Pat Fitzgerald. And I say that knowing that he is in a market where Northwestern football is like 12th. I mean, they're behind the soccer team. So, well, maybe they're not, but you know what I mean. I mean, they're behind DePaul basketball, maybe. But I think Fitzgerald made a choice a long, long time ago. He's cast his lot at Northwestern because he cares about the place. He stayed until they built the practice facility. He could have left many years before that, and they never would have built it. It would have stayed the way it was. He stayed through that. He won 2 division championships. Fleck has not won one.
Nope.
He had a better team in 2019, but he didn't win the thing, you know. He has a far higher bar to clear as it relates to recruiting, the highest bar of all.
Yep.
And he has purposely chosen to stay there. Much like David Shaw chose to stay at Stanford.
Turned down NFL jobs multiple times. Yep.
He's turned down the Bears. He's turned down the Packers. He's turned down Michigan, I think. I think Pat Fitzgerald is the guy. I think he does understand modern athletes pretty well. I like that he's got a little bit more of an edge to him. I think Fleck does too, but Fleck can be a little bit of a salesman, whereas I think Fitzgerald kind of sells, but he doesn't do it in a way that's like false. The one knock against him, and I think it's not illegitimate, is this most recent team was really bad. I mean, Fleck has not had a team anywhere near that. And to be quite frank, other than 4 games in 2017 when the defense quit on Bob Diaco, Nebraska hasn't had a team that was anywhere near as bad as Northwestern's team last year. Nebraska struggled. They've had some issues. They haven't won some games, but they've never been, oh my God, this team's getting wiped off the field bad. And they lost their rivalry game to Illinois by like 33 points. Again, that's Mike Riley, end of Mike Riley era. We don't give a crap bad. So that'd be the one knock against him. But I do feel like that. The jury for me is out on Mel Tucker. I think Mel Tucker is going to end up being an NFL coach one day. But the jury's out there because he's only done it for 3 years. But 2 things I really like about him. One, he can recruit, like really recruit. And he's not afraid to recruit like all over. He's not I've got my 3 coaches here that are going to go to this one region. Like, he'll go to Iowa, he'll go to Texas, he'll go to Colorado, he'll go to Georgia, he'll go to Florida, he'll go to California. He can recruit anywhere. And the other thing that I like about him is that I think he is a little long-winded. But I like his even nature to the sense of, like, I think if you played for him, you wouldn't really be guessing. And you wouldn't feel like you were getting. And this is kind of true of Scott Frost, too. You wouldn't be guessing every day. You wouldn't be wondering what, wink, wink, what's coach going to try to pull today? What props he going to bring out, Is it going to be an oar? Is it going to be a fan? Is it going to be a tree? Tucker won't do any of that because Tucker sort of came up in the game in the NFL where if you do that, you're a goober.
Right. And
so I like that about him. And I think Nick Saban's a lot like that too. There's not a lot of BS around Nick Saban's program. Tucker, in that, and Kirby Smart's the same way. There's just not a lot of BS around the programs. Like they're there to win games, and they treat the players, I think, pretty well. And I think he treats the players well. But it's not a Carnival Barker situation. Tucker would be like 3rd on my list, and 2nd on my list would be Ryan Day because I think he's really, really sharp. And the program, I don't know that it's gotten better. But it hasn't gotten worse. And I do think that if you were to ask those players, like, do you like being here versus whatever feeling came out when Urban Meyer was here and made you feel the way he made you feel, I think they would say, oh, yeah, we much prefer the current coach. That said, Urban Meyer's made a lot of mistakes. He's a very flawed person, and I think he was correctly let go in Jacksonville. But he forged the modern identity of this league.
No doubt.
That's hard. That's hard for people to set aside because Urban Meyer did a lot of things wrong. The Zach Smith, he did a lot of things wrong. Simultaneously, the Big Ten was forced to adjust, and he's gone, and the league adjusted to a more competitive vibe. And in some ways, if you go back to when he joined the league, there were more moral abominations going on in the league at that time than any other time. And so, we don't want to try to weigh that out too easily. Meyer's, in some ways, not a great guy, but so when Ryan Day took that over, he took over an operation, and the infrastructure there is still the same. So his, Mickey Mariotti still, those guys are all there. He left them all there for Ryan Day. The infrastructure to build the team is still there, and so that's why Day doesn't finish first for me. Otherwise, I think he would. But he hasn't really built it himself. He's still using all of Urban Meyer's personnel guys.
And that's the thing for me is always I try to imagine what would happen if they switch spots. What happens if Ryan Day went to Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald was in Ohio State? What would happen to those teams? I think Ohio State would either not miss a beat or get better, in my opinion. I don't know that Northwestern would be all that different with Ryan Day as the head coach or for Pat Fitzgerald.
Which would be to his credit.
I suppose.
So what program in the Big Ten does Fleck make better?
He makes Minnesota better.
Yes, granted.
I think he makes just about everyone better.
Okay.
Again, if you go to Ohio State,
Maryland, I grant you.
Sure.
Rutgers, I grant you.
Yes. If you go to Ohio State, your task is to keep it going. You're not trying to get better, really, right? You're trying to do what you do.
Yeah, I don't think PJ Fleck could be there.
Maybe not. I think he could handle it. I do. Okay. I remember when he was, what was his first year? 2018 in the 17. Big Ten? 17. That first year, I was not all that impressed. I was like, this guy is a salesman. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. I guess he's waking me up, but I'm just not hearing much. I felt like the last 2 years, what he has said, the substance of what he said, has been good. I feel like he's more comfortable in his own skin on the major stage than he was.
All right.
And, whatever. I feel like he is well equipped moving forward with what it could be.
Did you see the movie Dunkirk?
Yeah.
Good movie, right?
Sure.
So at the very end, Tom Hardy, the pilot, he's getting out of the plane. He knows he's gonna whatever. And remember, he sets it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you see that shot of that frame there where the plane's on fire and he's in front. That's pretty much what Jim Harbaugh took over at Michigan. That's what he took over. It was really, really bad.
It was.
And it was really broken. Brady Hoke was an alum. Not alum. I don't know what he was, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was not quite Scott Frost getting fired, but it was something. That's what he took over. And granted, they've only won one Big Ten championship. But that program's a lot better than it was.
I guess I just have a hard time separating the
Rich
program from the coach. Sure. And I get that Michigan struggled, but I feel like a lot of teams, or a lot of coaches, given Michigan's resources, could have made them similarly better.
Sure. What I will say is that we tend to have this. We don't understand what he's doing or what he's talking about, and he's wearing the hat, and it's a little odd. And he seems often more interested in either political issues or what TV shows he's watching or whatever. He does. He's just that. The football team's pretty good. They were pretty good last year.
Yeah,
and they
sure.
kicked Ohio State's butt.
They did.
That was the first time they'd beaten Ohio State in a long time. There's just a sense of we don't know. I don't think it's easy for us to always know what to do with him. But does he know the game? He does.
Sure.
Does he? Is he one of the few head coaches that is able to have a super young staff and function in that environment? He is. Like, he has a young staff. It turns over a lot, and he manages that. I don't know. I don't know where he fits on the list, but he's higher on my list, even though he would be higher than Fleck. Okay. I'm not trying to knock PJ Fleck because he's done good things. He would be higher on that list. There's a few guys that would be kind of low and are just... I do question whether Tom Allen at Indiana can really get it done. And he's a really nice guy, but, defensive coordinators, man, it's tough. You got to have a very specific kind of personality. And, they did the thing with the quarterbacks last year. They played 9 of them. And defensive coordinators, they don't always know what to do. Well, let's play another quarterback. Let's play this guy. They don't know. They're just all over the place with that. And that team was horrible, too.
They were
terrible.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different... Look at this. It's Tom Shatel coming in.
Uh-oh. Look out.
Is he going to come over and talk? Anyway, there's a lot of different... there's just a lot of imperfections there with him. And where does Frost rank on it? Uh-oh.
It's a good question. That's a great question for Tom, I think.
Well, I didn't come here to be on this, but I just want to say hi.
You can come on over.
Talk into the microphone.
We're talking about Big Ten coaches, and what the Big Ten coach we would pick.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tom Shatel, everybody. The Big Ten coach that we would pick if we were starting a Big Ten program. In other words, like building a Big Ten champion. And who do you think Evan picked?
Don't worry about that. Just see who he picked.
Okay. Who would you pick out of the 14?
Well, I thought I think he picked Captain Kirk.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And we're not picking Lincoln Riley. They're not in the league yet.
Why not? I want to go there this year.
You get fired by it. But you know what I'm saying. You got to wait for Lincoln Riley and Chip Kelly.
I'll wait. Wow, that's a good one. Who would I start with? Who has built a program?
I don't know that I would pick Lincoln Riley, by the way.
Well, you pick somebody who has actually built a program, correct?
Right.
I mean, Lincoln Riley has not built a program. He took over one that was built.
So you wouldn't pick Ryan Day, born on third base.
Right. What is the end game? What do you want to be?
Be the best team in the league.
Okay. I might pick Mel Tucker.
Okay.
That was one of my 2.
I might pick him. The other one would be because you're right, Ryan Day, but he certainly looks like he has the characteristics to build a program. But I like to see it, and Ferentz has built something. I mean, he had to build. They were a year or two.
They were horrible.
98, 99. They had to start over.
Nebraska fans know it. Yep.
And now they had something to build on because they had that. The Fry years were very good, but they've had a ceiling, which they are very happy with, but that's the best team in the league. No. People think I like Schiano. I think Schiano's a hell of a coach.
Okay. No, that's, he's a sharp. I tend to be like, if it's going to be a defensive coordinator, it has to be a Mel Tucker or a Greg Schiano, and it can't be a Tom Allen, rah-rah. I don't think that works. I picked Pat Fitzgerald and Mel Tucker.
Okay. Very good.
The reason I like Tucker is because I think he's, although he can be long-winded, I think he's probably the same guy every day. He can really recruit, and it's not a ploy. It's not jokey or it's a guy that wants to win football games and not, reinvent promoting the sport.
He appears to have the thing that I think is the number one trait or the number one requirement or step to having a building program, and as you have a standard. This is how we do things. We not only have a plan, but everybody who comes into that program knows this is what's expected of you. You do this every day, all the time, which they have not had with Frost. I mean, I'm not sure that they have that yet. Which would be interesting with all these new guys coming in. But I think Mel Tucker seems to have that, and you're right about Fitz. He's got that. And why do guys in the Big Ten have that? Ferentz has that. Wisconsin, I don't. a lot of things were. I mean, he replaced.
They'd plateaued.
Yeah.
They
So I think he's done a good job.
plateaued.
But Wisconsin's always had the way of doing things.
They have.
So I don't know. What would you say?
I said PJ Fleck because I feel like in the era
that's
of,
a good
of the
one.
portal and NIL, like he's got the energy and the.
I think it's a
the
great argument. You make a
salesmanship.
great argument.
You can't argue about what he's built something. They
did it at Western Michigan.
They have
He's
a
doing it
thing.
now.
They have a thing, and you argue about the guy. Is he a nut? Yeah, but maybe he's.
But I think
Maybe the guy's crazy. I'm not a fox. I mean, he's so. Maybe that's all part of it. I don't know, but good one.
I just think he is who he is, and like, it's quirky, but like he's not playing an act.
Yeah.
Like that's who he is. I
get it.
I believe that. Anyway,
My argument against Fleck is that he plays well in a market where he's the sixth most important. If you put that guy at Michigan, it's not gonna.
Well,
They'd be like, listen, you can't do any of this. Like, and I think it's been anyway.
although
Fleck
Harbaugh
is
has
an
been a little
inspired
bit
choice.
nuts. Harbaugh
is.
goes outside the lines.
I think that what I would say about Harbaugh is that we don't understand him. I think he's often hard for anyone to understand. And so as a result, we kind of downgrade him, even though the team's pretty good.
If he wasn't one of them, if he wasn't one of the Bow Boys, would they want him?
Yeah, I don't know.
So because they're very of all the schools in the league, they're probably the most buttoned down.
Yes, they are.
And he's not buttoned down.
When you
he's
go
very
there, you
loose
feel
collar.
that. Yeah, it's a very.
So anyway,
all right. So you're
Great,
writing, you're writing a column for Sunday.
yeah, I'm fired up. I'm back.
For us.
Yeah.
Big Ten. We've already done Big
Yeah.
Ten Media Days. Do you have any thoughts about your column that you want to preview?
Yeah, I can't wait to get back and dust off the laptop. What is interesting, very interesting, maybe the most interesting season I've come into here since whatever was the Keith and McCant year, 91. You've got all these things moving, all these moving parts, all these things going on at once. The head coach under fire, the new quarterback. I'm making all this money, the NIL factor, all these transfers, and I thought Nebraska had the most transfers of anybody. They don't. I was watching the SEC Media Days, and Ole Miss has got 13, and Mizzou has 19, and apparently those guys are all being brought in to. They're not really going to be stars. They're just going to add depth, but 19 is a lot. Nebraska to me is sort of the poster boys of this era. A lot of these changes were, all these transfers. Will this work? And a lot of the transfers were driven by NIL. So how's it gonna go? Is the chemistry going to work? Are these guys? Are they going to be any good? Will they perform, and can they do it just like that? Mark Whipple turned this thing around. He's going to be driving the ship a lot on offense. It's fast. Everything is just fascinating. I can't wait to see it. And you've got the head coach trying to change on the run. And what's his role? How involved is he? Is he in the middle of the huddle at practice? Is he out here? Is he getting after people? Is he standing back? I mean, it's fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating. And we don't know what is the bottom line. We don't know what it is. And Trev Alberts isn't going to tell you. Maybe somebody in the courts, maybe some judge will tell us to go in there and find out. But my hunch is it's not as black and white as 6, 7, 8. It's not that simple. It's going to be in Trev's head, in his eyes. What do I see? Is this a program? Because again, they have not built a program. They haven't built a program. Because if you build a program, you don't have to bring in all these offensive coaches. You don't have to do it. But they have. It just hasn't not done yet. So, and then you have all these players coming in. They've got to build a team. So, all this stuff's going on, but I think Trev will say, is this going forward? Is this a football program that's going to win in the Big Ten? And that's kind of what I think will happen. And the last 2 games of the year could be big.
By then, they better hope that they're qualified for a bowl, which I think they actually will be.
By the way, in case people don't, Wisconsin at home at Iowa.
Yep.
These are games year 5. You have to beat at least one of these guys
Yeah.
to show. If you lose to both of them again, is it progress? I think it'd be hard to say that unless you're already got 8 wins. You know what I mean? So
I think that's a good point, that they could get to 6 and they could say bowl, woo, and then go into those last 2 and really not play well, and people are like,
the hard
okay, I guess we can do it again, but do we really want to?
the hard part about this is that you got all these Band-Aids. They're basically all these transfers. They're some Band-Aids. They're coming in. They're trying to. It's the whole thing is kind of a quick fix. So you're not really building a program this year. You're just trying to get to the next year.
Right.
So you got to be really impressive this year to tell Trev, okay, because we're still building next year. We're trying to do it again. You might have all new players again because those guys are going to leave. Some of them are going to leave. Some of them are not. But you may not want some of them. You might want other guys. So you got to really be on point this year with the coaching to show Trev, yeah, I got him under control.
Okay.
Well, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will.
We're getting it going next week. We'll be back chatting with you guys every week when the season gets rolling, probably the next few weeks too. For Tom, for Sam, I'm Evan. Thanks for listening, guys.